Everybody. Anticlimactic and Zoom. I'm Garrett Westlake. I'm the executive director of the Da Vinci Center. Um, we're excited to have you here. This is, I think, one of the crown jewels of VCU and certainly of the Da Vinci Center, and that's the Master of Product Innovation program. We offer a number of undergraduate certificate programs, and we do a lot of experiential education at the university and are involved in a number of innovation activities, but it's really this master's program that is the glue that holds it all together. We try and target a 20 student cohort of really diverse, talented individuals from a variety of different backgrounds. And we bring you all together, and we think that's the secret sauce. So it's bringing in the right people. It's like any great new venture, it's all about having the right team. And so we're really intentional in trying to find people that have a great mixture of work experience, industry experience, come from different academic backgrounds. And then we form a mashup of folks from those different backgrounds into the program. And it's a fast-paced, very intense program, but it's all applied. And so at every step of the way, it's really we teach you how to do something, and then you're applying that. And you're applying it in ways that you might not think. We have a former student from 2 years ago, she came into the program with a background in digital design. And most of her experience had been in UX, UI, and website development and graphic design. And the first project that she really worked on was a medical device where she was working with a cardiac surgeon that had her scrub in and was having her be a part of surgery to say, I need something that solves for this. And that was way outside of her comfort zone as a digital designer, and that's why she worked on that project. And as a result, she went on to form a medical device company with that surgeon and ended up producing a new medical device. And I think that that's just a great testament to how those experiences shape the overall experience. So yes, you will get some academic experiences in the classroom. We've got some fantastic faculty that come from industry, people that, their full-time role is in senior leadership roles at CarMax, folks that do this in the product space day in, day out, as long with some other faculty members like myself and Allison that are full-time here at Da Vinci. But it's then giving you that knowledge that you can go forth into the world and partner with local startups and industry partners and really see how it works. One other example, just to contextualize what you're going to hear from Allison and MC, we were once asked why we didn't have sort of an introduction to innovation class. We were looking at the curriculum. Where's that sort of classic intro class? And, when you look at our 590 class that Allison teaches, you have, 4 or 5 different master's student teams working on sponsored projects. And I think the best way to learn the current state of innovation and product innovation is you've got one team working at Pfizer, you've got one team working at Dominion, you've got one team working with a startup, one team working with the VCU health system. Each one of those teams is experiencing innovation as something totally different depending on who their partner sponsor organization is. So they're all designing new product. They're all advancing within an organization that's trying to be innovative, and how that is done looks radically different. So there's no textbook definition that all of these, user groups are using that defines how product innovation is done. What there is a number of different frameworks that are used in industry, and you're getting to firsthand knowledge through your team. But by being and hearing from all those other teams, you're also getting some insight into how it's done across the field. And in different silos, be it healthcare, be it technology, whatever it may be. So, this program has constantly evolved. We pride ourselves on that. We teach, an agile and iterative design process as part of what we teach. So we practice it ourselves. We don't teach the same class the same way twice. Even if it worked really, really well, we take feedback from students at the end of the semester around how we can iterate that process and make it even better. And so sometimes that means that we make improvements that are in the right direction. Sometimes we walk something back because we thought we were going to make it better, and oops, maybe we messed with something and we got to go back and change it again. And I think that is what makes this different than other academic programs. It's not set in stone. We're not saying this is the way it's going to be, and we're still going to be teaching it this way 10 years from now. It's a very current, very dynamic program. And I think you're going to get a feel from that from Joshna here in a minute, who can talk about the experience as a student. But I just wanted to be here mainly just to share my enthusiasm for all of you being here and for the program itself. We have been blessed with having some increasingly talented cohorts come through the program. And one sneak peek, because it's one of my favorite newest additions to the program, is that we're launching in the spring the first of its kind student storefront. So this will be a new addition to the program that the newest cohort is going to get to take full advantage of. And what this is, it's on Broad Street in downtown Richmond. It's at the intersection of Ryland and Broad. It's right across from the Siegel Center, which is VCU's basketball arena. And it's a 2,700 square foot storefront facility where students have the ability to sell their products directly to the public. Students will maintain 100% of all proceeds. So whatever that product is sold for, that money goes directly back to the student. And DaVinci covers all the operational costs. So we're paying the rent, we're staffing the facility, we're taking care of all the supply chain on the back end. And you have the ability to sell product or to collect customer insights. So we really see this is the laboratory for innovation and entrepreneurship education. You have the ability to put something on the shelf, to watch how people interact with it, to host office hours with your customers, to ask them about your product, to engage in dialogue. And the space has been designed in conjunction. We tapped the VCU Brand Center to help us with the design of the space. And so it's actually made so that students can do a takeover. So all the marketing and the labeling and the branding, the vision is that you could do an entire weekend where you would take over the storefront. And so if you have a new product or a new thing you want to sell, and it's going to have a marquee like the National on Broad Street, your name up in lights, and it'll say, coming this Saturday, marshmallow. No, it'll have you up there on the marquee, and you have the ability to use it as your own store for 2 or 3 days, a weekend, an evening, and host special events where you could have an event and then take people over to a basketball game. So this type of really dynamic space, we've got a great partner building out this space for us, doing a phenomenal project for us. It's going to open in the spring semester, and we're going to be using it both in our classes as well as students are just going to have the ability to be a part of the process. We've also hired some of our graduate students who are working in the operations of this. So some of our GA positions are operationalizing this storefront. So that's the one for me that's been kind of like a passion project for years, wanting to see something like that come to life. I'll spare you all the university bureaucracy that goes in behind the scenes to make something like that work. I'll just say that's why no one else has done it. But it's going to be a great asset that we're looking forward to for this next cohort to take full advantage. So as usual, I get too excited, I'll talk too long. So I'm going to stop because this was just supposed to be an intro. And I'm going to kick it back over to actually, I'll take any questions now, and I'll stick around as well. But any questions, and then I'll kick it over to Allison and MC. Cool. All right, well, you're going to get a bunch more info from these two.
All kinds of stuff. So I guess we'll do some introductions just so you have context of who we are and what we do. So I'm Allison Schumacher. I'm Director of Academic Alchemy for the DaVinci programs and our new certificate in healthcare innovation with the School of Nursing. I have run 3 businesses in entertainment and design and gourmet food, and I'm about to launch a 4th with a taco truck with my husband. Like the full-time job, but I just can't stay away from the entrepreneurship side of things. Graphic designer by trade. And I do a lot of our corporate outreach in terms of setting up those projects that Garrett was talking about for the 590 class, as well as teaching that class in the fall semesters. If we are lucky enough to be able to go abroad in the summer, as is normally planned for our program, hopefully we will see each other in Portugal next year. I'm the faculty member who accompanies the students abroad, but we will see how COVID plays out and whether or not it's going to let us travel the world a little bit. MC?
I am Mary Chris Escobar. I'm the Assistant Director for Academic Programs with DaVinci. And so my role with the MPI is really to take students all the way from admission through graduation. So my favorite thing about what I do with the MPI program is that I get to help students who are interested in the program through the application process and then see them all the way through to graduation as their primary advisor for our program. So just super inspired by both our undergraduate and graduate students and getting to work with them. I have a long history in higher education education and student success and advising. And so it's been really exciting to bring that to such a passionate group of creative students. Really enjoy what I get to do, and especially again that part of seeing you all the way from when you start to where you are when you leave, which is really awesome. That being said, I will pass it over to Joshna, who's one of our students, who it's great to see tonight, and she's one of our graduates, I should say, recently. And if you want to just introduce yourself, and then we'll do the Q&A a little bit later with you.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you, Mary Chris. So like Mary Chris said, my name is Joshna. I graduated MPI in December of last year, and my undergrad was in biomedical engineering. So I've been at BCU for almost 5 years now. So I actually came into the MPI program with a product in mind that's in the medtech healthcare space. And I can also touch more about it later, but I'm happy to share more about my experience. I love the DaVinci group, which is probably one of the reasons why they pulled me here today. Greatly benefited from it, and it's one of the reasons why I'm here where I am today.
Thank you. So I think Allison and I have a few slides that we're going to share just really quickly to kind of give you the overview of the program, which will contextualize the Q&A with Joshna and hopefully help you think of some questions that you may have about the program, but we may answer some of those questions. So I'm just quickly going to share my screen. All right, and if you guys can just give me a thumbs up if you can see the slideshow. Great, thank you. Right. So Garrett touched on a lot of this, but just we are a collaboration between the School of Arts and Business and the Colleges of Humanities and Sciences. And again, we're rooted in teaching innovation and entrepreneurship to students. We really are a unique collegiate model with our center model that is grounded in all those different disciplines. And we really are looking to impact communities through bold curiosity and intentional innovation. So that is our vision as a center. We are really grounded in human-centered design. So all of the principles that we teach look at how do you design a product or a business or a nonprofit with that person you're designing for in mind. We're very grounded in empathy in the work that we do. We value and recognize access, equity, and inclusion as key to that. So you're bringing a variety of academic backgrounds and diversity in academic backgrounds into our program, but you're also bringing your diverse experience as a human and who you are as a person into our program. And we really do think that that is part of that secret sauce of having everybody's academic and just their own backgrounds coming together in teams to solve problems. So we really are committed to fostering that because we think that is our secret sauce at DaVinci. And so we want to make sure that we're fostering an inclusive atmosphere in and outside of the community, in and outside of the classroom, where you can really feel like you're bringing your whole self into our program, because we always want you to feel welcome. I'm going to turn it over to Allison just to quickly talk about our undergraduate and graduate programs that we offer.
Yeah, we bring up the undergraduate programs in these kind of talks because they all relate to each other. So in DaVinci, we work with real problems and use our cross-disciplinary teams to solve them. So on the product innovation side, we generally give you the problems to solve, right? We pull them from industry and help provide problems for you to be able to work on, especially early on. So you can kind of figure out how your brain works. What's your process? How do you actually work through this? And in a team of people who think very, very differently than you do. We also do the entrepreneurship with the venture creation side of things, where it's your problems or problems that you might be pulling or teaming up with other people or pulling from our health system in order to solve. But ultimately starting from the ground up and working as quickly as you can towards commercialization. So we do teach undergraduate programs in product innovation and venture creation and human-centered design. And then the master's program brings all of those things together and kind of elevates that education with higher expectations, greater deal of challenge, and a lot more engagement and case studies and various other things that kind of help you wrap your head around what innovation is and how to be able to execute on these different problems. We do have a certificate in healthcare innovation, like I mentioned. This is a collaboration between the School of Nursing and the DaVinci Center. So I think something very important to anyone interested in the MPI program to understand is that you can do both of these programs and not extend your time to incorporate both of them. So you basically have 6 credits of electives that you need to take for the MPI, and you can fulfill those with 6 credits in nursing leadership. So you're simultaneously getting the certificate program alongside with the MPI. You, of course, can take more credits than what you actually need. But with the healthcare certificate, if you are really interested in the healthcare space and helping other people, you can learn the parts of the healthcare system that can kind of help you innovate in that space. Basically, we're trying to connect the dots between people in healthcare who can identify problems in their practice and people who have an interest in healthcare but don't know the healthcare system, don't know the procedures and I guess all the protocol that's necessary to actually operate within the healthcare system. How do you actually make a product that is using empathy that's actually needed in the healthcare system? And then how do you implement that? How do you create a behavior change that actually makes people want to use your product for the benefit of patients? Both cross-disciplinary. The benefit in the nursing side is that those classes are asynchronous and all offered online. So they're open for all students to be able to just take them when it's convenient. And we also offer our classes through the Da Vinci Center from like 6 to 8:40 at night, but always after 5 p.m. to accommodate people who also work while attending graduate school. Let's see. So on this one, this is the kind of sequence of courses that you might see coming through the program. I know that, let's see, MC, you probably will give a better description of this than I would, given you're our advisor. So I'm going to let you take this.
Absolutely. So we're going to sort of talk through quickly what the courses are, because that's really a great way to give you a snapshot of the program. What we're looking at here is the full-time sequence. And so we'll also just show you a slide in a second so you can see how it would break down on a part-time basis if that's something you're thinking about. But we start off our program with INO 600. So as Garrett mentioned, we do not have an intro to innovation, but this is our introductory class. And I actually will let you talk about this, Allison, because you have the most experience with it. And then I'll kind of go into the others. But we hinted at this earlier, but when we are able to, this is an experience where students travel to the European Innovation Academy in Portugal to kick off the program.
Yes, and this is a pretty intense experience. So it is 3 weeks. It is about 12 hours a day, 5 days a week. You can do what you want on the weekends, but the expectation of the work that you do in this program is pretty high. So you're basically going in, either bringing your own idea or joining into an idea with someone from 65 different nationalities. There's usually 500 to 700 people that engage in this. You get mentorship through groups like Google and Twitter and Amazon. They're sending their leaders over to help work with these students because they believe in innovation as much as we do and understand that being able to help train people in this is going to create better employees for them in the future. So that whole program, we end up paying for your ticket there and your accommodation. So flight and food is on the student, but the experience is pretty life-changing. We always end up with students on the stage at the end in the top 10, and many of our students, including Drishna, have won scholarships through this program. So in INO 691, you actually, the course that you would take most likely in June, these are 1 credit, quick, 1 week short courses. And I switched very quickly into the subject because they do come before we go to EIA, but the scholarships that I'm talking about are coming from one of our faculty, actually. So we went to EIA for the first year, met one of the partners from Nixon Peabody, which is one of the top intellectual property attorney firms in the world. He helped form EIA, and the students just loved his presentation. So I approached him, and now he's faculty in our program. And he comes here and teaches our students about patents, trademarks, copyrights, how to write patents, read patents. You may even get to argue with an officer from the USPTO office between 2 patents. So really understanding in depth what that looks like. And then being able to apply that when you go over to the European Innovation Academy. Other classes that we teach for the INO 691s, this past summer, we also included UX UI taught by a senior product developer from CarMax. We had user experience research, user research that is taught from someone from Good Run Research, which is they work with like Kraft and a lot of large organizations to kind of figure out what is the user need on that side. And then the last one is Scrum Master certification. So if you're unfamiliar with Agile or Scrum, it's a project methodology that can help you continuously produce usable product. By the end, it's really slated for software designers, but can absolutely be applied in a number of different things. We actually run it in my 590 class. Running into the fall semester, this is what we kind of call the gauntlet semester. It is 12 credits of intense coursework. It's a lot of homework, but if you can make it through that fall semester, I'm pretty sure it's certain you can make it through just about anything. Those classes, 501 is rooted in design. So that is taught by a C-level executive from CarMax. The 502 is in international business, business advisor. I'm struggling to find my words after this very long day. But Jeff Hammond, 503 is taught by a designer and engineer from Canon cameras. And I teach the 590 class, the project class. And then I guess I'll continue to describe these classes here. So 651 and 652 are a paired capstone class that students take. So in the spring, this is where you start to do the entrepreneurship side of things. This is where you're working with an idea. We've had students use ideas from NASA in the past, from our healthcare system. We're currently working with the Commonwealth Cyber Initiative. There might be some potential there for students to use cybersecurity research that's currently being done to be able to commercialize a product and potentially receive funding there. And alongside of that, students will take an elective. You can take electives in Da Vinci or outside of Da Vinci that can be fulfilled through the nursing classes. Mary Chris is very skilled at helping students kind of understand where their gaps are and what they want to learn and point them in the right direction of which electives might be able to fulfill that well. And then 652 has historically been taught by Garrett. And that class is really trying to work you either taking the idea that you worked on in 651 and working it towards commercialization, or you may fulfill it through an internship doing product within a company. Or the last one is more of a traditional master's thesis on a theme of innovation with a committee and those kinds of things. You can imagine that most of the students who come through a program like this are not all that interested in writing a traditional master's thesis. So we don't get many takers on that one, but it is always an option for students. Guys, did I miss anything?
I think you'll hear a little bit later from Joshna, the 651 in class. The first part of that capstone is where if you're bringing an idea into our program, you actually can start working on that. So we get that question sometimes from students. If you're coming in with an idea of something you want to start or a product, already underway, as soon as you hit that 651 course, you can actually start working on that as part of your coursework. You can, of course, be continuing your work on it behind the scenes while you are in the 500 series of courses in the fall. But really in that 651 and 652 capstone series, you can really work on that project that you brought in yourself.
And I'll just say that's one of the pieces that is really unique here, is that it's very different experiences. In 590, you're being given the problem by a group, and you get more of that corporate innovation experience of being a team that's charged with solving a problem, where you have kind of more of a client that has expectations of deliverables that you're trying to get to where they want you to. 651 is where the burden is on you to both identify the problem and then really have, it's on your shoulders to build it from the ground up and do each one of those stages. And as much as people come into the program oftentimes thinking they know what they want to do, you end up finding out that people jump ship. So you might come in saying, I think I would really love corporate innovation. That sounds so much fun. They have all these great resources. And you do it and you're like, wow, that feels really constrained. And then you enjoy the creativity and the free and being a part of a startup, or vice versa. You come in saying, I'm going to do startup. And then you work with a corporation and you're like, oh my gosh, they have so much money. They have all these resources. Like, why would I want to do a startup? This is the life. And it's really funny. We hear it from students all the time. They switch back and forth on which one they find attractive. But at the end of the day, it allows you to make really informed decisions about your post-graduation plans. So you leave with really having gained what it's like to be a part of that early stage startup. Joshna has the scars to show for it around like what it's like to be scrappy and raise capital. She's done a great job of that, of like, you've got an idea and you go out and you raise capital for it. And we're here to help you do that and how to help you, navigate those waters, while at the same time, that looks very different when you're doing it within a company that might not be the most innovative company, but you're being asked to be innovative in a framework that doesn't always allow it. So having those two extremes, I think, where you're going to be working on product in both spaces is pretty key.
And just as I mentioned, so that you can get a snapshot, that was our program kind of going through the courses in the 1-year sequence, which is typically, those of you that are interested in applying by the December 15th deadline, you would start in the summer and that would run summer to summer. But I did also want to mention that we do have an option for students to attend part-time. And so I've just put an example curriculum if a student were to start in this upcoming fall semester, what that would look like part-time. I think one of the coolest things about our program, as someone who went to a more traditional master's program, I went through a traditional master's program part-time and it took me 4 years. Because our program is a 13-month program, if you need to attend part-time, you still finish in 2 years. So it's a pretty great deal to come out with your full master's part-time in 2 years. So this is just an example of kind of what that could look like. And this is something I really enjoy working with students to kind of plan out the sequencing and how you want to move through the program. Just wanted to mention that option. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and stop screen share and turn it back over to Allison and Joshna to go through some questions. So we have a couple planned questions, but then we also have time planned for you all to ask questions. So feel free to, when we get to that part, you can unmute, or if you think of questions as we're asking our couple of questions, feel free to put them in the chat as well.
Yeah, so Joshna, we gotta put you on the spot a little bit. I mean, you knew you were coming, so I'm sure you can talk about this stuff for days. But tell us a little bit about the company you founded and like where you are now in your entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah, sure. So the company that I founded is, like I said, is in the medical device, medtech innovation area. It's called Kilo Medical Solutions. My team and I, when we went through our biomedical engineering program at VCU during undergrad, we actually designed and prototyped a device that will help recreate the womb-like environment for premature infants in the neonatal ICU. We worked on it for a year when we were in undergrad as part of our capstone project, so we got a great deal, lots of resources in terms of building the prototype, but we haven't built any business around it. From all of the team members' experiences and our extracurricular activities, we were very, very connected to College of Engineering at VCU, School of Medicine, a lot of different departments that's within VCU. And so one of our personal and professional mentors is the Dean of School of Engineering, or College of Engineering now. So she introduced us to Garrett because we went to her asking, hey, we have this product, but we don't know anything about building a startup around it. I don't even know the term entrepreneurship until I met Garrett. I don't know if you remember the conversation, Garrett, but towards the end of our capstone project, we had a big capstone expo that engineering school hosts across all different engineering disciplines. And that's when I met Garrett, the whole team met Garrett. And he told us, look, we have this master's program. We will teach you what you need to know in terms of building a startup, establishing a startup, all different stages of that startup. So we came into the program with just a prototype in mind. We didn't do any market research at this point, no business research, nothing. And for us, the first time where we felt like we were business founders / owners is after we went through that EIA program that Allison was mentioning. That was our first experience in terms of working with different team members, because we were working with people from all over the world. So the EIA program, I can still remember. Also, it is not 12 hours. It's more than 12 hours. I will say it right now. I think our day started at like 6 a.m., 6:30 usually, and we didn't get back until like 7 p.m. most days. But that's also because we're overachievers and we tend to work way after the program's completed. But it's a lot of fun on the weekends too. The EIA program is really great because it taught us everything that you need to know about starting and establishing a business in the span of 3 weeks. So going from choosing an idea to doing customer discovery and the importance of solving a problem that's really needed for the customers, and then going through market research, going through financial modeling, how do you do a revenue model for this theoretical product that you're building and physically building the product, all the way through preparing presentations, doing pitches, which is where I've learned a lot about interacting with investors, how to manage relationships with them. The mentors that I've met at EIA, I don't think I've told you guys this, but I'm still in touch with them. And I've actually just contacted them recently about fundraising opportunities. So really great mentors. That was our way of understanding, hey, this is what we're getting ourselves into with our product. So when we came back from EIA is when we incorporated our startup, and then we started creating roadmaps, started creating plans in terms of, all right, I think it's like in November of 2018. So now we're an officially incorporated startup. We need to start acting like that. So our initial strategy with fundraising was bootstrapping. So we went after competition prize money. We went after grants, both state, local, everywhere, wherever there's free money. And there's a lot of free money for startups, especially now when big companies realized importance of innovation and how a lot of young entrepreneurs are very attracted to this field. So the MPI program's really helpful in helping you find those opportunities. So we went through that for a while, and, you know, certainly still making progress in terms of our product, and while also managing our 500 classes, which are a lot of fun because you get to work on different projects outside of your baby, pretty much, which was our company at that time. And for the capstone, again, for the master's capstone, we decided to work on our startup, and we really were able to make a lot of progress because from the 590 class, which Allison taught, Allison and I went back and forth so many one-on-one discussions in terms of just learning the process of design thinking principles, human-centered design. The project that we worked on with my team was with VCU Help. So that was my first experience in working with a larger corporations. I've learned a lot about, you know, for you to get a decision made, you kind of have to meet like 20 different people, and then you move forward. So 590 class was really, really, really great in that sense, and there's a lot of tools that Allison will give you in the 590 class that we've applied for our startup. One of them is, you know, like TOPS agreement that I always tell Allison. So all of these different classes that you take pretty much up until the capstone was what really helped us in building our business. So from the business class that we took, we've learned a lot about doing pricing strategy, doing revenue models, because at that time we were really trying to understand, all right, so we've got a good product. We're doing a lot of customer discovery work. We don't exactly know if people are going to be paying for it. How do we go out and like figure that out? So all these different principles is essentially what led us and prepared us to be competitive when we were looking out for fundraising opportunities. So I believe it was for 651 was when we started learning about incubators, learning about accelerators. At that time, we didn't know. So again, you learn so much in the process. And we started going after that. And by the time it was time for us to do 652, we were accepted into one of the programs in Raleigh, North Carolina, that's very tech-based. So we took that program and we sort of incorporated that as part of our 652. I mean, I can go on and on and on, and I probably covered so much just with that one question. I don't even remember the question you asked, Allison, but it's a great program. It helped us successfully raise money, not just from investors. We also did get our first investment earlier this year. But when we do try to do all these efforts in terms of raising money, bootstrapping efforts, going after competitions, tapping into the networks of Mary Chris, Garrett, and Allison. I mean, they know a lot of people in the entrepreneurship space, and as long as you just ask them questions and you pester them, hey, this is what I need, this is what I'm looking for, they're always there to help you. And certainly along the way, we were expanding our product. We're at the stage where we've been through two very well-known accelerator programs. We've raised our first investment dollars, and in the midst of making some big decisions at the current moment. Certainly trying to expand the team, and just learning a lot in the process.
And Joshna makes it sound so straightforward, like they've just
But
been
it's not.
two accelerators and they went through a National Science Foundation accelerator, and
Yes.
that you're not even including that one because that one would make three. So we're like not including the National Science Foundation apparently now. But another key piece that she didn't share that I think is important is they started as a team of students that came in all working on the same product. And at one point in the program, one of them decided that, you know what, startup life wasn't what she was looking for. She'd been with this team and done this product, and she was scooped up by Capital One and went to go work on product for Capital One. And so I think, it's not this either or, it's not this binary, well, you're working on a startup, therefore you can't go jump into a role doing product somewhere else. And I think that just speaks to how, sort of transferable all of these skills are. That one day you're working on a product, you're building a medical device startup, and then the next day you're in a corporate job at Capital One. And Capital One actually ended up sponsoring our accelerator at VCU, our pre-X program, because they've taken so much talent out of DaVinci in the last couple of years, that they decided to go ahead and sponsor the program as the title sponsor. And we've joked that our demo day, where we showcase startups, is the new career fair. And a lot of companies are showing up to actually recruit talent from our startup expo. So I think that just goes to show how it's really changing the look and feel of how recruitment is done and what product looks like. And I think Josh's team is a great example of that, where they were able to sort of do all of those things.
Yeah,
It definitely makes it sound easy. Oops, sorry, go ahead, Joshna.
No, my bad. I just want to definitely highlight the process of going through a startup and the number of skills, different skills that you learn in that process. I've been told many, many times when I interact with a lot of recruiters and a lot of senior level executives, just because when I am going out there and pitching product, those are the kinds of people that I do interact with. They're very impressed with the skills that DaVinci is teaching. They're very impressed with, wow, like, I don't even know if you were to work in corporate for like 2 or 3 years, like you probably wouldn't be learning so many different skills at the same time, because you're sort of siloed in one direction, so to speak, unless if you're in the innovation space. But that's what really interested me in pursuing my startup career, because you just get to learn so much in the process.
Yeah, you do make it sound easy.
But it is not easy.
It is not easy. And one of the main points we talk about, especially in the interview, is this concept of ambiguity and what it means to go through a master's program. So Joshna and her colleagues are successful because they put in the time, they put in the energy. You really get out what you put in from the program. And going through this isn't the type of master's program where you just go to check a box to say, hey, I got a master's degree in 13 months. This is, you really need to invest yourself into doing this and spend a lot of time thinking about what it is you want to accomplish, the types of experiences you want to have, and then be able to communicate those to your mentors. There are mentors that students can cycle through, can go to constantly throughout the program and receive advice. We're all good at different things. And so it's great to have interactions with all of us, but we are here essentially to help. That's why we keep our cohort somewhat small, 15 to 20 students. Because we would, I think, struggle to provide that level of personal engagement if we went much larger than that. And then really another thing that got mentioned in this process that I want to highlight is that a lot of our students kind of go in a very different, or have the ability to go into a very different direction than where they started. So, the partner we're talking about this with, she's a biomedical engineer who's now a product owner in Karma, or in Capital One. We have a student who started off as a criminal justice major, ended up inventing a door called the French slide, which you can see online. It's a sliding glass door that both works as a sliding glass door and also opens like a French door. And he is now the head of business development for Xerox up in Rochester, New York. So he had a business, he had a company that he had started in the program and had worked on in 651. And at the end of his first half of the capstone, he's like, you know what? I know I'm going to be successful with this, but I've never worked in industry before. I want to go work for corporate. And so we ended up aligning him with an internship. And after 2 months in that internship, they hired him on into that higher position.
Yeah, it was supposed to just be a summer internship to see what corporate life was like. And then it became, oh, I'm now a business director for Xerox and I'm opening their new innovation office. And Yeah, and then he's licensing his technology around the French slide door and staying involved with that product. So
yeah. I think one of my favorite quotes from one of our master's programs, Alan Ireland, or one of our master's students, Alan Ireland, when asked we were going to feature him for the work that he was doing, and we asked him for a quote. He said, if you want to do anything, Da Vinci is everything. And that just like floored me as a person whose job it is to consistently look at our program as if it has things wrong with it in order to improve it. So, if anybody's going to beat themselves up around here, it's probably going to be me. But at the same time, I get to see students' success like Joshna and be able to realize that what we're doing is super impactful, and that the hard work we're putting in is worth it. It's worth every bit of it. So, Joshna, let's get you, maybe, let's ask some questions from the audience. Does anybody have questions? If not, I can I can fill in. No, maybe.
Just wondering, so with the master's program, what is the main difference between all of the undergraduate certificates and what we're learning with the master's? Or is it just even more experience?
Well, it's more experience and it's more challenge. So John Mirador is one of our undergraduate students who has gone through all of our undergraduate, or he's in the process of going through all of our undergraduate courses. I would say it's a lot more time dedicated to it. We only see a small number of students from undergrad actually successfully launch companies and start to get investment and those kinds of things, where we see a great more deal success in the master's program. But the level of challenge, so like John going through 460, 590 is structured in a very similar way, but you are hearing from people from industry. You are engaging in case studies and reading, studying innovation at a little bit more intense degree. And you have a lot more bars that you have to meet. There are milestones you have to meet throughout the program, or throughout that course, that are different than what you might see. Two, in the undergraduate program, especially in product innovation, you're taking classes in arts and business and engineering, but you're doing that through the course of like 4 years, and you're getting some baseline skill sets. Whereas the way we teach it in the master's program is that you are able to side by side utilize what you're learning in those courses and put it into 590. So Jeff Hammond, for example, in the 502 class, he is aware of all the projects that are happening in 590. We share our schedules. And so he's consistently looking to help each team build upon what it is that they need to learn in order to successfully execute on a project like that. So it's definitely much more ingrained and much more intense. Mm-hmm.
And John, I just add, you also work with us. There are more than like 300 students or so at the undergraduate level in our classes. You don't get to see me. I don't teach your classes.
I wish.
This 20 student cohort is really so that I get to spend a lot of time with the master's students, and there are other opportunities that come available. One of our master's students last year had the opportunity to run this nonprofit accelerator program, and a foundation came to us and said they wanted a new program that was going to foster and help nonprofits be successful. And we tapped one of our master's students to run that alongside Da Vinci staff, and he got the experience of running a nonprofit accelerator. The storefront opportunity, where we have students doing business development and opening a new storefront and working with Lighthouse Labs, Startup Virginia, the Jackson Ward Collective around how our storefront can fit into the larger fabric of the entrepreneurship ecosystem. Those efforts are being led by the graduate students with us beside them. So it's much more integrated and applied than just going to class.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
All right.
Another question?
Do you have one? Yeah.
I was curious if the mentors would be available to, I feel like a one-on-one chat with either Mary Chris or Allison, that it would crystallize in about 15 minutes kind of whether the program is going to be something that is right for the prospective student or for me. But are you guys available to schedule short little discussions as far as, just getting some more info, getting your opinion on whether you think the program lines up with a student's goals and things like that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
If anything, I'd say we almost, that's why we do this and we do those conversations. We have a ridiculously high acceptance rate. and a very low application rate. And it's because we do that pre-screening. Like, we don't want you just wasting your money on an application if it's not a good fit. It's such a personalized cohort. We really value these time to get to know you as a person and like what your goals are, and do we have the network and the resources. You know, we had someone come in who's really interested in education and educational reform. My PhD is in curriculum and instruction. You know, I ran an ed tech I've run ed tech companies. We want to make sure that we have the in-house talent to really match with where you want to go. And if we don't, we're going to tell you, and we're going to say, you know, we have a colleague over here that does this. You might want to look there. But it's really personal for us. We're happy to make that time.
Yeah, the more that we get to know you, the better. It just, you know, we're about humans first. And in that, I guess we're probably going to share a little bit more information about how you apply, but we're one of the few master's programs that openly looks at you as a collective human and what you want to do. So things like GPAs and GRE scores are less important to us than your letter of intent, than your letters of recommendation, than your interview, or just the information session that we do. It's pretty common. You can have more than 15 minutes of our time. It's pretty common for me to spend about an hour with students, just talking through any questions that they have and really figuring out what that interest is.
Okay.
I think the cool thing about what we're doing, oh, go ahead.
Oh, I'll let you speak, but if one of you guys could answer, what could I do / prepare to bring into that conversation that would kind of be the best use of time? Because yeah, I knew, you know, 15 minutes is not really how it would turn out or whatnot, but you know, is there kind of personal goal statements that should write down to bring to you, or is it just
I think just be authentic. I mean, I think we're really just big on authenticity, and there's nothing to prepare other than just come be your whole self, be your true self, be honest. And I think that's how we roll. That's how we roll as your faculty and administrators. We are our authentic selves. We come to work that way. We operate as a team that way. And all we ask in return of our students is that they are their authentic selves as well. So no need to prepare or show up in a suit or do anything like that. Just be yourself.
all right?
And I think the great thing about what we're doing here is we used to spend some time in those sessions like talking about what the program was and what the classes are. And so the cool thing about coming to an info session first and then doing that is we can really spend that time focusing on your questions and your goals and answering things specifically without having to spend, you know, half of that time talking about like what the program is and the classes are. So I think for me, that's been the great thing about these sessions is it allows those conversations as follow-ups to go deeper.
You know, Jushna, I had this on my list, or Mary Chris put it on my list to ask you, but to talk about the culture of Da Vinci a little bit. I mean, you know, it gets tough during certain parts. There's ups and downs, there's all that kind of stuff. But yeah, if you wouldn't mind touching on that a little bit, I appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, even if you didn't ask, I wanted to just add final words before, you know, you guys talk about how to apply and stuff. I cannot stress enough. If you ask them for a meeting, even if you ask Garrett for a meeting, I know he's the executive director, but he does not act like it when he sits down with you. If you go to him, this is what my goals are, this is what I want to accomplish in the next 6 months, he will make sure that he'll find resources for you if he can't help you directly. So, and it's not just Garrett. You can go to Mary Chris, you can go to Allison. I mean, there's so many. I pretty much lived in Da Vinci for a while. I think that's fair to say. We've spent a lot of time outside of classes there. We were there until like 1 a.m. and usually I'm there like around 6 a.m. sometimes. So I'll see them walk in, walk out. And spending your time there is also another way to get access to them. Because, you know, you can quickly ask questions. You don't necessarily have to go through formal ways of scheduling meetings. You can just be like, hey, Garrett, I have a question. I need to ask you this. And you can just directly ask them. At the end of the day, the culture at MPI is they want you to succeed. And you have to define what your success is because they're not going to know what it is for you as an individual. So I would say they will do anything and everything possible for you to succeed through the program and outside of the program too, certainly.
Yeah, that's a perk too. Just because you graduate from this program doesn't mean that we disappear. We have lots of our students who continuously come back, ask for introductions, to meet with other alumni at places, you know, that they have interest in working, so they can gain some inside knowledge and build some relationships. So it's ongoing. It doesn't stop here.
I mean, take me as an example. I graduated almost a year ago, but I'm still in touch with them. I still, ask them for meetings. I'm still in contact with them on a regular basis.
Always happy to see you too.
It's because then you come back and do Q&As for us, which is so nice.
I mean, I can't, it's because I enjoy the program so much and I have so many things to talk about. So, but culture's super friendly, super nice. It's really what you make it to be and what you want out of the program.
All right.
Other questions from folks?
I don't know if I'm asking this question prematurely, but how does graduate financial aid work?
So a couple things on that that it is good to know. So you're not premature at all on this question. If you are thinking about joining our program in the summer, you would, much like undergraduate financial aid, you do want to fill out that FAFSA form. And what's interesting about our program is because we have a summer start, you actually would want to fill out the financial aid year runs fall, spring, summer. So you would want to fill out, I have to think carefully about what year we're in, the 2021 FAFSA for this year, which would cover your summer semester. And then you would also then fill out the 21-22 to cover the fall and spring semester that you're in the program. So that's one thing to note. So first and foremost, always anything financial aid graduate or undergraduate filling out that FAFSA form is the right way to go, because that opens up, all kinds of opportunities for scholarships or loans or grants that might be available. We do also typically have the ability to offer a few scholarships through DaVinci, and we send that information out to applicants, as they have applications filed and are getting ready to schedule interviews, we'll send that information out. That varies kind of year to year depending on what funding we're getting from our donors, but we do typically have the ability to offer some scholarships. And we also have a pretty comprehensive list we send out just encouraging you to apply for other scholarships that might be available. And then it's also come up the idea of graduate assistantships. And so one thing that we do to try to support our MPI students is graduate assistantships. Those the ones that we run through our center, typically, we often have one, and again, this varies year to year, we often have one that does include some tuition assistance, but the majority of them are hourly positions for about 20 hours a week that are designed to just kind of help you offset some of your living expenses while you're in grad school. You also have the ability to apply for any graduate assistantship across the university. So that is also a possibility. So lots of things there. Did that answer your question? Okay.
Yes. I don't know.
Awesome. Thanks, John.
Anything else off the top of people's heads they want to ask?
I was actually going to ask a question of given the field of innovation being very broad and kind of hard to define, where do alumni tend to end up? I know that there's founders, startups. It sounds like a lot of people go in-house in companies, but is there a leaning towards one side, or are there also people that go into innovation agencies? What's the kind of demographic of alumni?
It's drastically different from cohort to cohort, which is kind of crazy. And again, people will switch over, but in terms of what people actually go into, it's usually product management, design strategists, those types of positions. But yeah, in industry, in innovation teams, we're seeing more and more places like Capital One that actually include the term product innovation in their job title, which is a relatively new thing that you see out in the world. But there's other language that we can help provide to kind of get you into those places. But yeah, our students normally will go into product, or they will go into starting their own company. And sometimes it's both of those things. Sometimes it is we have two of our alumni from, I guess, 2 or 3 years ago that joined into a business together. So they both work independently at full-time companies, but they have their own company to be able to provide user validation research for new startups or for corporations that are looking to potentially launch a new product, but need to make sure that there's an actual market for it. So a pretty wide variety, but generally around the formation of products, yeah.
And we've had 2 graduates go to work for accelerators, and then one go on to work in venture capital. So also taking that experience of being in that space to go work for other accelerators, incubators, and on the venture capital side of the house. So I mean, again, it really has so much more to do with we attract really diverse people with diverse backgrounds, and that reflects on where folks go out the other side. And it really varies too, small, medium, large. We have folks at 5-person startups and 10,000 person large behemoth organizations. So our goal really is to try and give you the feel of each one of those along the way so that you're making a really informed decision about where you're going next. You can talk to grads that have come before you that are in those different organizations. You've done work with some of those leaders, and you're making a really informed decision for yourself, I think is the key thing.
Yeah, I think I kind of missed that structure when I was discussing the classes a little bit, but I can provide that. So the EIA and the summer experience is kind of like the fire hose effect of figuring out what innovation and entrepreneurship kind of looks like, and then we see what sticks. We come into the fall semester, it's very much more focused on the larger picture of innovation, but more into the corporate side of things, the industry side of things, and then get much more of the entrepreneurship side in the spring semester. So it's structured that way, kind of deliberately, like give you the fast pace everything, and then kind of slow it down and go into depth a bit more. Yeah. All right.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, it's surprising. I'm waiting to see what happens to this particular cohort because they're very interesting. So when we made a switch to the program from being a 2-year program to 13 months and focused it much more on the applied and the commercialization side of things and actually helping students launch this stuff instead of just learning about theory and case studies and those types of things. And within the first cohort, we had a lot of students who were like, nope, industry, that's all I want to do. And then they entered 651 and realized that they really fell in love with the side of entrepreneurship and the idea of being their own bosses. The next cohort we had, almost all of them wanted to be entrepreneurs. I think I had one that wanted to work for industry, and now most of them are working for industry. So, or both, or doing both things. And this group is kind of, I don't know, they're teetering for me. When they came in, they were talking about mostly wanting to be entrepreneurs, but now I think they're kind of bridging that gap and understanding more and more that the skill sets that they're learning can be cross-utilized. It's more and more companies are looking for these types of skills. And it's, do you want to raise your own capital, or do you want to potentially have that funding, at your disposal while working in a company? Yeah.
I think we're seeing more too, students being recruited out of the program for opportunities that they might not have thought of. And I think you're seeing more of that, where students are having the chance to work on this nonprofit accelerator, and this is kind of transformational. We had 2 students this last year that were working on a project for some faculty members with Medicines for All. You may have heard about PLOW and some of the pharmaceutical engineering work that's happening at VCU. 2 of those lead PIs at the university had a second idea that they didn't have time for, and they had 2 master students work on it. And those 2 students turned in their final deliverables, and the response was, let's form a company together. And so then they both had corporate jobs. And they were like, what? Like a startup? Like, really? So I think that you see some of that. I saw the question come in about how the pandemic has affected the current class. That's a great question. We prioritized trying to maintain face-to-face contact for the master's program. So all of our undergraduate coursework went virtual. And therefore we tried to prioritize how do we keep our 17 student cohort safe, and how do we bring them to campus and build community. So we're using our largest lecture hall that holds like 175 people. We're using that large space to teach 17. And we're following all the other protocols as well. And we're still trying to make our prototyping facility available, but with really intentional scheduling around when it's being used to avoid people being in there at the same time. Joshna mentioned being in the building. We miss being in the building and having those conversations. I'm using Marco Polo. I don't know if any of you guys use that, but it's like a video messaging app to do regular contact with students in my class and also in the program. So you can just drop each other video messages, and it sort of takes the place of those running into you in the hallway or at the building conversation. So we stay in touch with each other. I think what's been cool is that we've had the ability, one of the pivots that's happened from this is that we can bring in more subject matter experts. It's easier for those of us with networks to call people in and be like, hey, will you teach in my class tonight? And instead of it being this weird thing where you like Zoom somebody in and everyone's kind of like clunky technology, now it's really easy to like get other voices into the classroom and to make partners with people that are further away. And I think it expands who we can easily work with on a partnership perspective. We can do more projects at a distance because everyone's a little more comfortable with this modality. So I think those have been positives. We have a corporate advisory board and an angel advisory board in DaVinci. A lot of those people are very busy, and trying to find a time that they're all available to see pitches and do that kind of stuff has been challenging. And what's great is this last time we did a reverse career fair the other week. Students had their materials virtually, and folks were like, we were able to blast it to people, even though they would, if we'd done a face-to-face event, they would have missed it. And this way they got a recording, they got digital copies of things. And so I think we're learning as we go through this that there are some really positive aspects of this that we will probably keep going. Our demo day will probably be a hybrid program, live streamed and in person going forward when we can do so safely. So I think there's been some opportunities, but our priority has been the master's program. We really made an intentional choice early before VCU made a decision about classes. We made a decision first to put our undergraduate classes virtual. We thought that was just a safe way to keep a large number of students safe, and we put all of our efforts into how do we keep a hybrid face-to-face experience.
Yeah, as a faculty member in this, there are some things that are pretty challenging to do if you have to remain 6 feet apart from each other. So we utilize systems like Miro. I'm not certain if you're familiar with the website Miro, but it's actually like just this giant whiteboard that you can add Post-its to. You can add I guess like user journey maps. They have a whole bunch of templates and things, but it's just this wide open space that you can fully document and contribute. But the great thing about it is you can see your teammates moving around. So you can be in Zoom in a breakout room and have one thing that you all are looking at as if you were in the classroom, actually completing an innovation, innovation exercises, or like learning a new type of ideation methodology and those kinds of things. And it also helps our students document their entire process from beginning to end in the projects we work on in this class. So it's just visual, it's there, it's really easy to use. And it's been a game changer in terms of being able to do successful virtual learning when it's needed. We got a couple other questions here. Let's see. Oh, so is the concept of pivoting or reinventing something that we have emphasized? I have a feeling that Garrett's going to give a better answer to this, but I'm going to give it a shot. So in terms of pivoting or reinventing, right? So this is the idea that there are two different concepts, but if you have an idea and you're really like trucking it forward, let's say in like 651, you're moving it forward, but you're not really seeing that users are aligning with what you're trying to provide, right? So if you're creating a solution that you don't yet know if you have users for, sometimes those things can be misaligned, and you may find a new path through your research and do a pivot to go into a different area to make sure you're serving user needs and will actually have a customer base and a market. That is definitely something that we talk about regularly, because you can't just force a square peg into a round hole. You have to make sure that what you're creating is has potential for success, that you have some kind of validation. And reinventing, of course. I mean, I think in the world of new products and entrepreneurship and these sexy startups and stuff that are out there, it's easy for someone to say, there's nothing in this market, my idea is completely original, and think that that's necessarily a good thing. I mean, I don't know, that's questionable in my mind. There's some validation in knowing that there are other people in the market and that you can do something better, that you can find a new vertical to kind of go in just based on doing something a lot better than the way it's currently being done. But knowing that someone else is also trying to solve a similar problem, or even the same problem in a different way, provides validation for the road you're going down. You just got to do it better. Garrett, you want to add?
I'll just share something that is a little bit bigger picture of how we've approached this. I think we had this written up on the board in the DaVinci Center for a while, and I've really liked it, which is that creativity or creative thinking is just the thinking of new ideas. Innovation is the implementation of new ideas, and entrepreneurship is the sustaining of those new ideas being implemented. And I think that that's really helpful, because it speaks to, we all can kind of think up crazy stuff and be like, those are creative ideas, that's fun. Innovation's hard because you have to actually implement those things. But what's even harder is sustaining them, and finding ways to keep that sustained. And when I think about pivoting, to me, it's a really nice, kind way of talking about just trying to stay alive. Like, I was a tech founder. I ran a tech company for 4 years. Like, there's nothing nice about pivoting. Pivoting comes when you are like out of options. You're not going to make payroll. You're desperate. You have nothing left. You're freaking out. And then you do this Hail Mary move in this other direction. And then if it works, you call it a pivot, and everyone's like, oh, you pivoted, right? Like, so, I think that we really understand that this is all hard, and it's all layered on top of each other. And so, yeah, you might need to pivot. Josha and I have had many of these conversations along the way. We've had lots of these heart-to-hearts around like, hey, maybe the team needs to change. Maybe the product needs to change. Maybe the market needs, there's constantly that evaluation built into what we do, because at the end of the day, it's about doing something innovative and making it stick, and having that entrepreneurial spirit is what allows you to make those innovations really stick. Whether you're in industry or outside, it's all about the sustainability of those new ideas.
I'm going to quickly pivot to thank Joshna. She has another call she needs to jump on. So I just wanted to give a chance to thank her. She has sent me her LinkedIn and contact information, so I'm going to put that in the chat for everyone. But thank you so, so much for coming and sharing with us tonight.
Of course. Always happy to talk about MPI. But like Mary Chris said, if anyone has any questions that they're shy of asking here, welcome to email me and I will get back. But good luck. Great program to join for sure. And you're in great hands. So there's nothing better than just making sure that your faculty is invested in your success.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joshna.
All right. Bye, everyone. Have a good evening.
And I did just drop her information, her LinkedIn and email that she shared is in the chat if anybody wants to grab that.
Mary Chris, should we touch on the last few things, just how to apply and those kinds of things?
Absolutely. I was going to do that because I know we're just a little bit over time, but really quickly, just to give you a quick rundown, just sharing this so you can kind of see what the application looks like. If you go to our website, which is just davincicenter.vcu.edu, Googling VCU Da Vinci Center also works. If you click the graduate header, you can follow a link to get to our application, but just letting you know that that is on the graduate schools page. So once you get there, you just have to click the Apply Now button and find our program to apply. So that is how you find our application. And then just a couple things about what you would need to submit if you wanted to meet that early application deadline of December 15th. You would need your statement of intent, and there's information on our website about what to put in that, and I believe that's also stated within the application, but there's some guidelines there for things to address in your statement of intent. As has been mentioned many times, we want to get to know who you are as a person. So the statement of intent is really about you and your goals, and you'll see some questions to guide you there for that. You do have to submit on the application names and email addresses for 3 references, but you do not have to have those references to us by December 15th. You just need to have provided their contact information. If you are coming to us with a background in the arts, you need to submit a portfolio, and the instructions again are on the website for that. We also welcome anybody who is not coming from the arts to submit a portfolio of experience. So we recognize, one, you might not have a background, a major in design, but you might have a design portfolio, which we would welcome that. Similarly, we've had students who have submitted portfolios of their work experience. So presentations, white papers, documents they've created for places that they worked. We're happy to talk you through that in one of those individual conversations, but you are more than welcome to submit a portfolio even if you are not coming to us from an arts background.
This is one of those, we had an applicant pitch me on the idea that he could submit a portfolio for another track. And I was like, what? And he was like, I really think it's possible. And so I said, pitch me. And he did, and it was fantastic. And so we've now changed the program application process to where you can submit a portfolio for the other tracks. So you have past students to thank for that iteration.
Yes, absolutely. Similarly to the references, you just have to enter the schools that you went to that you'll be sending us transcripts from. And then standardized testing this year is waived. We're waiving that because of the difficulties to get test scores in for COVID. some of that submitting a portfolio is our students coming from an arts and design background never had to take standardized tests, and so that student who pitched wanting to do a portfolio instead was pitching, you know, to do the portfolio instead of that requirement. So I would still encourage you to do the portfolio, but just know that we are not taking standardized tests. We always put more weight on everything else in your application. And so since this is so hard right now, it just seemed like the right thing to waive that and not ask you to pay more money and have to coordinate taking that online. And I think that is it. So just Allison and I think, put our emails in the chat. You can also always get to us at davincicenter@vcu.edu. We're a small team. So when you email that address, our communications manager or office manager, make sure that gets to the right person. So that is our website and our email if you would like to stay in touch.